Back in July, Houston got hit by Hurricane Beryl, spelled B-E-R-Y-L. Well, that particular day, I was on a hotshot down in Waco. I came back up to Dallas, and about that time, I got a call from my boss, and he said, "Hey, do you want to take some transmissions out to a dealership in Nacogdoches?" And I was like, oh, man, the weather over there is going to be kind of nasty because of that hurricane, because basically the hurricane was headed due north. Nacogdoches is just a couple hours north of Houston. But I was done very early in the day. It was probably only 9-10 a.m. when I was coming back to Dallas. So I said, sure, what the heck. So I went to the automotive parts distribution warehouse where those transmissions were, got them loaded up. Unfortunately, I was having work done on my van, my Ford Transit that you see in these videos. And so I was in a company van. This particular one is probably not our most thoroughbred of all that we have. It's a 2000 Ram 3500 wagon, which most of y'all would associate with being from like the First, Second, or Third Baptist Church of whatever town you happen to be in. Well, this is a decommissioned church van, so it still has glass windows, whatnot, but all the seats are pulled, and we run automotive parts around in it when the other vans are broken. So I'm in that, and I load up and I head out to Nacogdoches. Well, probably about an hour before I hit Nacogdoches, it starts just raining cats and dogs. So badly, in fact, that I got to find out that the windshield seam, or whatever you want to call it, that little rubber strip, that seal, had failed, and it was now dumping water pretty much onto my leg. So that was pleasant, but it was nothing that could have prepared me for what would come next. And keep in mind, at this point, I've been going probably 15-30 minutes well below the speed limit because the rain and the wind are just so bad. Well, at this point, luck would have it, I round a bend and I see some smoke coming through the trees. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we got rednecks making a trash fire in a rainstorm? This can't be intelligent. Well, I regret to inform you all, it was not a trash fire. That would have been massively, massively better than what I found around the next bend. Two cars had hit each other head-on, two SUVs. One of them was basically on its roof in the middle of the road. The engine was kicked off, 20, 30 feet away. And that scene was fairly horrific. There were, car parts just littered all over the place. The other vehicle, also a kind of a mid-size SUV, one of them was a Beamer, one of them was a Volvo, the other was like a GMC Acadia. Well, the GMC Acadia was down in the embankment, probably 15-20 feet away from this other SUV. So we go up to the Volvo SUV that's on its roof, and we're looking for signs of life. So anybody making noise, any movement, and basically I pulled off, and it's still pouring rain. Keep in mind, I get out of my car, this other dude gets out of his car, and we both walk up to this Volvo, and we see the driver's arm draped into the back seat area, not moving. And this other gentleman that walked up to the scene at the same time of me reached under the car, felt for a pulse on that wrist, and unfortunately did not find one. He motioned to me that it was lights out and we needed to go to the next vehicle, so we walked over there. I kind of looked through the windshield. Of course, all the curtain airbags and everything had gone off. But I looked through the windshield and I could see that both of the front seat occupants were moving. The gentleman that was with me went to go open the driver's side door, and basically looked over at me and said, "You know what, man, this one's on you." And I said, "You know what, fair enough." So I walked over, yanked checked on the handle, and nothing, unfortunately. So at this point, I looked over at him and I said, "Do you have any tools?" He said no, and unfortunately the work van that I was in didn't have any either. So I told him, "Okay, don't freak out, but I'm going to go ahead and use the slide off my gun to break out this window." So that's what I did. I pulled my gun out, cleared it, and then used the slide as a hammer to break that window open. So we got the gentleman out of the driver's seat. He looked like he'd been kicked in the face by a mule. If I recall correctly, his arm was pointing all sorts of weird directions, just broken in multiple different ways. And then at that point, we went over and assessed the situation with the passenger. She was hysterical, understandably so. She was pretty messed up. Her shoulder looked like it had collapsed from some sort of impact within the vehicle. She just had miscellaneous small lacerations. But me and the other gentleman gathered that from her appearance, we probably shouldn't move her due to the risk of a spine injury. And about this time, a nurse that happened to be driving by walked up to us and kind of confirmed to us that, yeah, we shouldn't be moving her. So we tried to calm her down best we could, but unfortunately, the engine bay of the vehicle that she was in was smoking very badly. So after this went on for probably 10-15 minutes, we had dumped a couple different fire extinguishers on it because by this time there was a small crowd of people. But the fire kept, really the smoke at this point just kept getting worse. We could see a small flame. And at some point I looked over to the other people and I said, you know, I think there's enough heat coming off of this, we probably need to pull her out. And so 4 or 5 of us took her from different corners and as safely as we could, as carefully as we could, we moved her probably 20 feet away from the vehicle, and she was still hysterical. We really couldn't move her far. But maybe 30 to 45 seconds later, the engine bay went up in flames. So it would appear that we made the correct decision in that moment. This particular incident did make the news. There was only one fatality. It was the initial person that we tried to make contact with. The other 2 survived despite what were apparently pretty severe injuries.